Hey everybody, what's up? Hola y bienvenidos al Narcos After Show here on AFTERBUZZ TV. I'm Ashley, your host. I'm so excited to break down episodes 3 and 4 of season 2. So don't go anywhere. We got a lot of juicy stuff to talk about, so we'll be right back after this.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Oh yeah, guys, we are back. Woo! I'm so excited to be here. We took a long break from season 1, and yeah, it's just great to be back here.
I do think it was like over a year.
It was way over a year.
Yeah.
So it's amazing, but you know, it was worth the wait because so far this has been a great season. Before we get into all of that good stuff, I'm Ashley. You guys can follow me Instagram, Twitter, tweet at me, give me your comments, your questions, how you felt about season 2 so far. If you've seen it already, I'm sure most of you have. And I'm not alone today. I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Khaliel. Where can people find you?
Khaliel Abooboo on Twitter and Instagram at Khaliel Abooboo.
All right, nice and simple. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. We've got 2 episodes to discuss today, episodes 3 and 4. And we got a lot of great information. We had a lot of great scenes, a lot of great dramatizations and character interactions. So let's just jump into it, right? So episode 3, this was Our Man in Madrid, and we just ended at the end of episode 2 with Pablo basically ordering the hit on a lot of those police officers. And Gaviria's retaliation to that, once Colin Opinzon resigned, he's going to not yield, right? It's what we all felt and kind of were thinking, or at least what I was thinking. But instead, he decides to bring in one of the most ruthless, divisive, just, I guess, equally matched people to Pablo that he could. And
I mean, that was grand opening, grand closing for Gallo.
Oh my gosh. When I saw him at the end of episode 2, I screamed because I was like, yes, he's one of my favorite characters in this whole series.
That's
I love
cool.
him.
I think it's funny how, like, we're doing this 2 episodes apiece, and literally, like, he came in for 2 episodes, and, like, now he's gone.
Right.
Like,
but it was a great comeback, I felt. Like, when he left in season 1, I kind of felt a little disappointed because he was such a great character, and he was one of the few characters on
got
the
shit
series.
done.
Got stuff done, but also he was pretty much the only person that actually made Pablo scared, which is something that we haven't seen on this series at all. He's untouchable at this point, but with Gallo, he got under his skin. And so it's great to see that on screen and all of the mistakes that he made just trying to get Gallo out of the picture, which we'll talk about later, but yeah, he eventually does. But it was great to have him come back. So it's a new sheriff in town, and he's ready to come in and basically come up with a new plan to...
Like finish it. Like we're gonna dead it this time.
Exactly. So just what were your initial thoughts of this episode? What did you like about it?
Well,
and overall impressions.
Like I was thinking like I know how do you say his name? Carlito?
Carrillo. Yeah.
Okay. Like I like him and everything, but I'm like, he's not the one who takes Pablo down. So like what like because I mean I'm kind of vaguely familiar with like the real story, so I'm like, what happens with because I was interested to see where it was going to go.
Right. Which I think is a great thing that the show did, because Carrillo's character is actually based off of the real person who does eventually take Pablo down, and actually that character will be introduced to him later in the season, but he's also in this show as well. So I think they kind of created Carrillo as a way for the audience to kind of, because since this is based on real life events, we can easily Google and kind of see, okay, how does this play out? But it was a way for them to still add that tension and for them to have this rival character with Pablo where we didn't really know where it was going to go. So I think it's great that they brought him back, even though it was short-lived. It did add a lot of tension to the series, and for one of the first times in this season, I know we're still early in this season, you really see Pablo flustered, and you see him kind of resort back to like that child primitive nature that he had earlier in the first season when he was up against something really difficult. So
yeah, and that whole like, well, we haven't really gotten to that part, but that whole just like him taking different routes of retaliation, like now the pen is mightier than the sword thing, like now I'm gonna write a letter. because I'm mad.
Right. It's like how
I'm having a bitch fit.
how childish that, I know, right? Exactly. So, but it was great. And, you know, right off the bat, he comes in, you know, he goes to Pablo's mural and the town square where everybody can see. And
he pisses on it. Great move.
You know?
Great chess move.
Knowing
Loved it.
that it would draw a lot of attention, knowing that his spotters and his informants would go back and let Pablo know. So it was like the biggest FU that he could ever give to him.
Yeah.
And it was just a great entrance for his character.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
That's
I've got a couple murals I'd like to piss on the people.
You and me both. Okay. let's talk about that after the show. Okay, yeah. So now that Gallo's back, he's in charge. He is the head of Search Block now. So they are now formulating this new plan. They want to go a little bit more incognito. At first, they had Search Block policemen on every single street corner. They had all of these search points. But now they kind of want to do things a little bit more on the stealth mode side because they don't want to call too much attention to themselves because obviously that hasn't worked. So through that whole series of events, they come about on information that basically leads them to one of the sicarios, which we find out it's from Judy Mancado's whole camp. And one of my favorite scenes with Gallo, and I wanted to touch on it a little bit earlier, and we'll come back to it at the end, but I just like that, you know, his ideas, his whole way of doing things, it's so unorthodox, and it really makes you question your morality. It makes you question everything.
Yeah.
His tactics definitely are ruthless and callous, but like you're saying, he gets stuff done.
Exactly.
So what did you think about,
Get results.
him
killing the little kid?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean,
Gosh.
that's towards the end of the episode, and we'll come back around to it. But just overall, him being the head of Search Block and like what that means for Pablo.
I mean, it definitely is a tough position because it's like, all right, y'all been dealing with this for X amount of years now, and it's only gotten worse, and you've tried this, that, and the third, and it's not working.
Right.
So what do we do? And then especially like you got, all right, the kid, he had to be like 13, 14. Not saying that like he deserved to die, but it's better than killing like the 7-year-old. I would guess.
Yeah. No, seriously. I mean, like I think it was either Gaviria or Peña in this episode. They mentioned that, you know, Pablo, he's not playing by anyone's game.
Exactly.
You know, he's not playing by the rules. So Gallo thinks in his mind, well, if he's not playing by the rules, then neither should I.
And as far as like making headway, it was like he was doing that. You know what I mean? Like everything else, we were stuck. We was running in circles. Like now, Khaliel's in here. I'm totally butchered his name, but he's in there, and now we're making headway. Like we're getting closer. Like we're getting shit done. Like a little boy might have to die, but that same little boy was gonna shoot at us. Yeah. So like, I don't know, bruh. Like I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, also on the same side too. For me, this episode just kind of represented like just how chaotic the search for Pablo is now becoming, with Gallo being back, and then Judy Mancado and, you know, Don Berna and the Rodriguez brothers, them kind of sort of forming some type of alliance, and us learning a little bit about the Cali cartel and how they're sort of eager to get Pablo out of the picture as well. So it's like these two separate forces who clearly don't want to work together, who would never under any normal circumstances work together, but they all kind of have this similar goal, and they're pushing towards Pablo. So we get a little bit of both of those sides strategizing and trying to figure out like what's the best way for us to take him down.
Well, they didn't know they were working together at the time, right?
Who didn't?
The Judy and her people, like they was just giving him a tip.
Oh yeah,
at the time.
Well, yeah,
they didn't know that. The police didn't know that. Yeah.
This is like kind of this is us being introduced to the Rodriguez brothers and us learning a little bit about, you know, sort of what their deal is and how they came out of New York, or they own New York. But now that they see that there's an opportunity for them to take out Pablo and for them to take over Miami, So they're separate right now, and eventually we will. It looks like they're going to eventually merge in this season, which will be really interesting to see.
I do feel like that is the one thing that like just everybody in positions like that suffer from is greed. Like you have New York.
Yeah.
What was the number? Like 7 million to 1.2 in Miami. Like who cares about Miami?
Well, you're being logical. Okay, if you're a drug dealer, you're a drug cartel.
Yeah, but
you're
I'm
not
just
really
saying,
logical.
like,
so that makes sense to them. But for us, of course, it's like, yeah, you have
who
7
cares
million.
about Miami, bruh? Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the business that you deal with. Like he was saying, business was good, but it could always be
Get better. Yeah.
So, now we have,
Stupid.
yeah. But that's the mindset you kind of have to be in to be head of a huge drug business. So going back to Colonel Khaliel, we also have Steve and we also have Jaime, who really, really interesting scenes with these two separately and then both in conjunction with Khaliel. So at first we had Jaime, who was with Khaliel with the spotters. So they, through their informants, they're able to locate pretty much all of the spotters that have been tracking the police and sort of letting Pablo know, okay, like don't go down this street or this car is approaching, so on and so forth. So they finally round up all of those spotters, and they're these young kids, these kids who
Walkie-talkies.
Right, walkie-talkies, phones, or
Very cute.
right, little
Very
kids. Cute. So people who are very impressionable, and I'm sure who look up to Pablo is like a god essentially. That whole scene with them being in the alley and with Carrillo and his men, and with Jaime being there, I'm really loving how they're starting to kind of push the envelope with police officers, and they're really starting to push the line with them and morality and how they're dealing with the tactics that they're taking to bring down this guy. Like they're supposed to be the good guys. They're supposed to be the ones who are more moral and who have more of a conscience, but it doesn't seem like the lines are being muddied a lot, and so there doesn't seem like there's much difference. So with Jaime being there and him seeing Carrillo shoot and just kill the kid and basically give the other kid that gun, the bullet. I guess what's your take on that so far? And then we see with Steve and his experiences with it, because both Jaime and Steve, they seem like people like, we can take it. We're tough. We're macho. We'll do whatever we need to do to bring Pablo down. But when they're in those situations, you can see that it weighs on them, and you can see they're affected by it.
I mean, that's just the humanity, like coming in. Honestly, like that's like, yo, man, you just killed a little kid.
Yeah.
Damn, son.
Right.
Like, he could let him go with a warning, but then he was talking shit at the same time. He was like, "Oh, I'm supposed to be scared." Like, so I mean, like I said, I don't know if I would have killed him, but I don't know if I should say, like, here's the thing. I personally, I don't think anybody has the right to take anybody's life, but I get it. Yeah. That's all I can say is I get it. Like, I don't know if I would do it, but I get where he's coming from.
So you're definitely more on the rooting for Carrillo's tactics.
I mean, he's got results. That's all I'm saying.
Getting the job
got
done.
results.
Yeah. So after that whole scene,
you gave him the bullets. That's some gangster. That's gangster right there.
And told him
that happened
this
to my
is for
friend
you.
one time. They were talking to this girl,
really,
and then some other guy came over and was like, "Yo, this is because they was talking to that girl." Left. It was like, done. You're not worth it.
So maybe Narcos stole that from your friend. You never know.
No, I think you were doing it for a long time.
That's like a signature gangster thing that you do.
Right.
Okay. Well, good to know. All right. So now that we've gone through that, so the little boy, I think his name was David, he goes to back to Pablo, and he basically delivers the message, the very strong threat that he delivers to Pablo. And like you were saying, he gets really, really flustered.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write a letter. You know,
write a letter. We're gonna go to the press.
Right. And
we have the lovely Veronica come back. I was happy about that.
Valera. Yeah.
Valera.
Valera, yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, she
that one. That one.
Exactly. Yeah, she comes back, and yeah, I mean, really, really interesting. Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously we know what his plan was, but do you think that he was really expecting there to be as much of an outrage with him going to the press and trying to get national coverage for this story?
It's just like, the issue is like, for one, in Colombia, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Bodies dropping every day, B. Like that's what it is. Second, it was a drug dealer, so like naturally people are gonna be like, well, he's in that line of work. And third, it's coming from you.
Yeah.
So already, like, if they're not your supporter, they're gonna be like, well, I mean, it was your fault because you put him in that position. So.
Yeah, very true. Well, I mean, I think at this point, he still feels like, and we're seeing this a little bit more and more kind of gradually come back, him gaining more control than he had when he was in prison. So after he escaped, a lot of tension there. He wasn't really sure whether or not he was going to get caught. So there was a lot of uncertainty there. With him now, you know, and he's evaded police several times at this point. He's been a step ahead. But I think now he's feeling like he's in a place where he can ground himself once again and like regain control again and regain that power. And to a lot of people, he's still seen as a saint. People still revere him with a lot of respect. So I think he was expecting there to be more outrage and for the narrative to switch from, you know, me being this horrible monster to look at what the government, look at what your own government is doing.
And then it was also a scare tactic. Like, like we need to get Khaliel out of here. Like, get him out, see what he's doing. So it was that too.
Scare tactic too?
For sure.
Interesting. Yeah. I read it more as just him kind of having a hissy fit and just wanting to make some type of jab at Korea. I mean, it was a weak jab, but it was just his way of like, well, I'm gonna retaliate and you know, you stop hitting yourself type of thing. So, and it didn't really work as well. We revert to that childlike, nature when we're in those positions, and it didn't really pan out the way that he wanted it to. Didn't get as much national coverage and attention, and I think he's seeing how just the people's perception of him, it's really starting to degrade more and more. So he's not the fan favorite. I mean, of course, he's our fan favorite, but people are starting to really flip on him, and they're not giving him that same respect. They're not putting as much respect on his name, so to speak, as they were before. So
I ain't gonna say it no more.
Right, no more. So I guess, that was to me really interesting, just how Gallo could get under his skin like that, and we're seeing that more and more, and just in these 2 episodes. It was just great to kind of have that shaken up, stirred up Pablo in there. So. Shaken up, stirred up, right? So we see more and more of Gallo's, with the help of Don Berna and Judy Mancado, and their informants, basically giving tips to Peña and to
Alicia, Murphy,
and to Murphy about where a lot of their labs are. So they're able to go in and they're able to capture a lot of the sicarios that are there before they're
Gato.
Yes, and got Gato.
Threw him off the helicopter.
Man, wasn't that just? I felt it as soon as they got in there. I said, "These guys are gonna drop. He's gonna
fight or flight." I knew it too. I was like, because when he got on the helicopter, I was like, "What do you need a helicopter for?" Oh, that's why you would need a helicopter.
Yeah.
So.
And just one of the worst ways to go too, right? Not that you would ever really want to go, but as far as deaths are, like, that was one of the most shocking for this season. I think since the airplane scene that was in episode 1 where he blew up the whole plane, like this one really shook me a lot. And again, just because it's coming from a guy who's supposed to be one of the good guys,
I thought he might at least like toy with him, maybe like, all right, I'm gonna just dangle you over the side of this helicopter. He was like, nah.
No.
And then gave him one chance. Like, all right, got this one question for you. Answer it or no.
Yeah.
He said, nah. Whoop. That's kind of, fellas, we should all take a lesson from that, okay?
Oh, no.
If you send somebody a text message or anything like that and they don't respond, whoop, throw them off the airplane.
Throw them off the plane. Yes.
Throw them off, bruh.
Special message brought to you by
There you
Khaliel,
go.
everybody.
Everybody should take that. No, please. Back to the show.
But yeah, so with that scene, we got a lot of great information. Number one, it just reinforces how crazy Gallo is. But also, that's the first time that we actually see him really trust and interact with Steve a little bit more. Because his whole thing was he felt like he was being left out. You know, back in season 1.
I want to play.
Exactly. and him trying to prove, like, you can trust me and I can handle anything that you dish out. And then we see this go down. Mm-hmm. And we see that Steve is shaken by it as well. Very similar. What I like about Jaime and Steve being partners in this show is that they parallel each other really, really well. Because at the first part of season 1, I kind of thought that there'd be a huge split between the two of them and that there'd be like this really big clashing of personalities. But they actually favor each other really well. And we're seeing more of this friendship and this bond being built between them. And we're seeing now how even though they try to put up this front, like they can handle all of these situations and that they're fine, we're seeing that it's affecting them in different ways, but it's still very similar.
Well, if anything, this might toughen them up a little bit.
You think so?
Now that Khaliel's gone, it's like...
Now, toughen up in what way, though?
Like, now they're going to go out there and get some shit done. I don't know. Maybe.
You think? Okay. It's the snippet of early predictions there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. You know, strengthening them, making them tougher, but... And, you know, we'll talk about this a little bit later, you know, once Steve's wife comes back, but it's about them... Yeah. a lot of random things happening in this show, but just about them trying to maintain a sense of not only sanity but just a sense of who they are, like why they're really here. You know, I think it's very easy to lose yourself, and when you're trying to take down somebody who is this threatening, who's somebody who is this violent, somebody who's this you know, destructive, it's very easy to lose yourself on that path of trying to get justice and trying to do what's right and what's considered fair. So for them, you know, I think we're just seeing both of them battle in different ways. And I love at the very end of this episode, when they both sit down together at the desk, you know, they don't say anything to each other, but it's kind of like, you've experienced it with Gallo. I've experienced it with Khaliel.
We both had our cherries popped.
Yeah, exactly. In the worst way.
Whoa.
This is real. This is
Shit
real.
is real, B.
Right. So, just really interesting. But any overall, just more thoughts or impressions about this episode? I mean, there was so many great moments that we had. I really love how in this season, particularly, they're trying to show the dichotomy between Pablo as being, you know, this ruthless, evil drug lord, but at the same time, he has all of these great scenes with his family, and him still being his
family moments.
Yeah, he has those family moments, still trying to be this loving husband and great father.
That's cute and all, but
yeah,
doesn't like neglect.
Right.
Doesn't like take away from anything else you've done. It's just like, oh, okay, so you do have a soft spot for like 4 human beings on this planet.
Yeah,
that's it.
But I think it's still great to see, because it shows us that he was still human. You know, the real Pablo Escobar, he did a lot of terrible things, but he was still a human being, and he still did care about his family. He loved his family, and you know, obviously he went about things in the worst way possible, but it's nice to see him not as one of those like cartoony characters who, you know, has the evil handlebar mustaches, like, like, no, he's a real person who actually does have feelings. He had dreams and desires and goals, and he brought himself up from nothing. And while he has a lot of traits that make him seem like he's a monster, you know, overall, he's not fully a monster. Like, he had some good intentions at certain points, but he just completely lost those. But it's just nice to kind of see. Yeah, I know. I mean, obviously he's still the bad guy, and we're not rooting for him, so to speak. I kind of was in season 1, even though I knew the outcome. But it's a good reminder. Like, this is still a very fleshed out character who has a lot of motivations. You don't think so? You're
it's like here we go. This is what it is. It's like that cheating boyfriend that like occasionally does something nice for you to show you that he cares and he loves you. Like, yes, this is all fine and dandy, but
is that cheating? Okay,
you're still going out.
But he's still a human being too, right? He's cheating, of course, and that's horrible, and I'm not advocating for that at all. And I'm not advocating at all for Pablo. I think what he's done is horrific.
Yeah, no, I know.
But at the same time, I don't think they just want to show him in one light. They want to show that he's a very complex character.
That's how you make a 3-dimensional character.
Yes, thank you. All these facts we're getting tonight from Khaliel, guys. So just any final thoughts for episode 3?
I think we covered it all.
Yeah, were you expecting anything, I guess, to happen?
I'm riding the wave.
Riding it. See, Khaliel and I, we haven't seen the whole season yet. I think we're probably the only 2 people on the planet who has not seen the whole season.
Mainly because I do this, and so I just pace myself.
Yeah, it's good to pace yourself, but it's hard too, because when you're watching it, you're like, I want to know what happens next. So I think I've made it to maybe the first 20 minutes of episode 5. So
you cheated.
Not cheated.
You cheated.
No, not cheated. I am just getting a little ahead of myself, so I'm more prepared for our discussions, guys. Right. But to on that note, I do want to watch it piece by piece and as we go along, because I think it's great to kind of still be on the edge of suspense. And kudos to everybody involved in this project, because it has been renewed for season 3 and 4 already. Yeah. So that's going to be really exciting. They're going to
do a different drug person, right?
They are going to move into a different storyline. So spoiler for those of you who haven't finished season 2, they'll be moving into a couple of the characters that we see now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it was going to play like that. I thought they were going to do it like the cover of different drug kingpins.
Well, I think that's how they're going to do it, but yeah.
But still related to like, this guy.
Well, yeah,
like that.
There are a couple of characters that are introduced now, like the Rodriguez brothers and the cartel. So we'll probably dive a little bit more into their storyline. But yeah, all that to say that.
That's cool.
We'll
news and gossip. You just got it.
And spoiler, we'll be kind of wrapping up with the Pablo storyline pretty soon. But it'll be great. It'll be. I mean, we know that it wraps up anyway, so it's not too much of a shocker for us. All right, so let's move on to episode 4. This was The Good, the Bad, and the Dead. And very end of episode 3, we basically see, again, with Judy Moncada and the Rodriguez brothers, they're trying to, and Pacho as well, their associate, they're trying to form some type of alliance because they want to take Pablo down. Yeah. And of course, Judy has all of the motivation in the world at this point to want
Judy's
that.
Judy's a bad bitch.
Yeah,
Judy's a bad
definitely.
bitch.
And I thought she was based on
Didn't we start the episode when Pablo was in her house?
Yes.
Because I saw the paint and I was like, man, I gotta get me one of those.
of her or of yourself?
Of myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I gotta get a painting of myself and I'll put it in my bathroom.
And that boss stance that she had with the chair. Yes.
With the tiger.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'd probably get a lion, but.
Because that's what you do when you're, in the family of drug lords. You just get paintings of yourself in boss positions with random animals next to you. Man, talk about the life.
Exactly.
So we come in and we see that Pablo has captured some of her associates or some of the people that was working for her husband when he was running the Sicario. So he tries to find out information on where she is because he wants her dead. Mm-hmm. She's been causing him a lot of problems. And I think this was a really great episode that dived into just how many problems, Pablo is dealing with and what he kind of has to overcome in order for him to sort of regain some stability, whatever that means for him. And so We don't really know if they gave any information that's substantial. It just ends with, I love Wagner Moura, who plays Pablo Escobar. He just has these really great intense scenes, and then we're shuffled on to something else. And so we didn't really know if they gave anything that they could use, but obviously they're still on the hunt for Judy and for Don Berna. And then we are introduced to, we come back to Gallo, and he has found he's basically been going through all of these sicarios, and he's been knocking them out one by one by one. So he's getting a lot more intel and information about where these people are. So I guess from the beginning of episode 4, where we ended off in episode 3, like, what were your initial impressions? What did you think? What was going to happen? Or did you have any like ideas or predictions about how this episode would play out?
I didn't think Khaliel would be dead at the end of it. I didn't see that coming. And then we had Limon
Yes.
come back and find girl, what's her name? Maritza. Yeah, I was like, dude, leave her alone. Like, you have ruined her life enough. What are you doing?
Yeah, we'll get into that whole point in a minute. But yeah, that was a great storyline. One of the few shows that really does a good job of faking you out. Because from start to finish,
I thought
the whole setup.
I was fooled.
The whole setup.
Yeah, well, I was all with it.
And I remember I was watching this and I paused it and I said, okay. I tried to make my own predictions before everything went down. I said either Limon is gonna flip. I was wrong as to how he was gonna flip, or Pablo's people were gonna find out.
I was thinking Limon was gonna flip too, but mainly because I was like, well, you finally realize you're on the losing team. All right, you just joined the losing team. Like, yes, they were great 2 years ago, but now you're not gonna make it to the playoffs, player. Like, you need to jump ship. And so I thought that's what this was. And I'm like, all right, finally, all right, you can get out of this and go back to being a taxi cab for hookers. Like, everything's gonna be cool.
Yeah, but that's interesting that you mentioned that, because that's what the show made us think. We see these scenes, I think it was in episode 3 where they're killing the police officer, or no, it was at the end of episode 2 where they're killing the police officers, and he tells I think it was Kika, he tells him to shoot, and he was like, come on, do it, basically like, man up. So from our perspective, we're seeing it as, okay, he's realizing that he doesn't belong here, that this was a wrong move. And then we thought, okay, he did have legitimate remorse for getting Maritza involved. Because he was legitimately trying to help her, and it didn't work out the way that he thought it would. So he goes to her and he makes this proposal, and he says, look, I want to help you so that you're safe, so that nobody comes after you anymore, and I want out. So to help us get out, I think we should turn Pablo in. Now, I don't know how I feel about whether or not I believe that she didn't know, because her whole thing, was that she was bamboozled, so she was a pawn essentially. But do you think at any point she knew that maybe this was a trick? Or do you think she was out of it the whole
fully
time?
Believed everything. Because I would have been with her, like, I'm not getting involved with this dude again. Like, hell no.
Yeah.
But it sounded so good and it made so much sense. It was like, all right, well, yeah, I could walk away if we were to do it this way. Yeah. So, all right, fine. Only because I'm not trying to live out on no farm with my mom and my little girl. Like, nah, that's not the life for me. So I was totally on board. Like, they fooled me.
Yeah. I struggle with that, because at first I was like, you kind of maybe sort of know that this is all.
No, and then especially with Limon. Like, and then clearly, because we got Khaliel in here and he's killing shit. Like, oh, fuck. I just joined the losing team, bro. Yeah.
I guess I just thought, like, at a certain point, maybe intuition would kick in, because all of these people are dirty. They don't play by the rules. So they can say, oh, yeah, we'll go about it, we'll do this thing. and then they can flip on you at any second, and then you're dead. So when she, first of all, when Jaime's, you know, I guess one of his people he sleeps with on the regular, she brings him over to her place, and Maritza's there, and she says that she has information that can lead to Pablo's capture. So she sets up the whole stage for that plot line to go forward. And at first, Jaime is reluctant, as he should be, about giving the information, but they decide to follow up on it. They seem very confident that it's going to work. And then they go through.
And I think because
plan.
she believes it too. That's another thing. It's
That
like
Maritza
she's not the
believed it?
type. Exactly. Yeah. She's not the type that's gonna play the police.
Right.
So like, she believes it. All right, I believe you.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm
Let's
gonna go
just
with
do
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Gallo and his men, they set up. They're given the address. They go to the address that they were given, and it turns out to be an ambush. So complete setup, and it was such a great twist because, like I said, from start to finish, they made it seem like with Limon and Pablo in the car and him looking a little nervous and like, are you okay? It really seemed as though Limon had flipped, like he was going to turn him in, and this was going to be like the ultimate takedown of Pablo. But as we know,
I knew that's another thing. I was like, watching it, I was thinking, how is this going to play out? Because for one, this is the 4th episode.
Yeah.
Two, this is not gonna. This is not how it ended in real life. So, what's gonna happen here? But at the same time, like I believed it.
Yeah.
So then I'm thinking, oh, how's he gonna escape from the capture? And now Limon and this other Maritza girl are gonna be in deep shit, even deeper shit.
So yeah, this is the final showdown between Gallo and Pablo, and he gives him his bullet back that Gallo so kindly gave him.
Gangsta.
Yeah, really interesting scene. What I love though about Gallo's character is that he, even in that moment, doesn't bat an eye against Pablo. With everyone else, you can sense that there's a little bit of fear, a little bit of an intimidation, little bit of hesitancy with Gallo.
No.
F you, man.
He had that look in his eye like, you can kill me, I'll come
Coward,
back from the death and drag you down here with me.
And even in that last little moment where he calls him a coward too, you could still sense that he was underneath Pablo's skin. Like Pablo clearly had the upper hand, but just calling him a coward, it's like, for a man, I feel like that's kind of one of the worst things that you could say. Like, you're dying on the floor and you're calling me a coward. So
that's
and
how
he
you
was
go
still,
out, son. In a blaze of glory.
So it was hard to watch, but we do know that the character, like I said, who is actually based off of Gallo's character, the real Hugo Martinez, which we'll find out in the head of Search Block, who eventually takes Pablo down. He comes back, so we'll get some gratification. But it was hard to see Gallo's characters go, especially since he had only been there for like 2 episodes.
Grand opening, grand closing.
And so obviously Jaime, he feels really guilty about it because it was his intel, and he trusted it, and it ended up getting his friend killed. And we see him now being approached by Judy Mancado and Don Berna and the Rodriguez brothers, and also the Castaños brothers, which we'll probably try and talk about that in another episode as we get to wrapping this one up. But the Castaño brothers, they're part of a guerrilla group that is fighting against a lot of the communism that's going on in Colombia. And they kind of have a vested interest in taking Pablo down too, mostly because he's been associated with a lot of communist groups in Colombia as well. But they get convinced to also sort of join forces with this like really weird Suicide Squad type of group to go after Pablo. It's like these weird
Suicide Squad. That's funny.
It's like these weird misfits that in normal circumstances would never ever fit together, but they kind of are forming this team. And at the end of it, they invite Jaime to be a part of
Suicide
it.
Squad.
Yeah, it's like the Colombian Suicide Squad. So so he is invited at the end, and that's going to be a really interesting turn of events, as we'll see in the next couple of episodes. So I guess we can just sort of dive right into predictions then. All right.
And now, your AfterBuzz
I'm
TV
very interested.
predictions.
Very interested to see what happens with the Suicide Squad for one.
Yeah.
Just to kind of see like how's that going to play out. Last week I said that Murphy was going to get a divorce.
Oh, really?
I don't know. His wife showed up just
Yeah.
randomly to say I love you. Like, okay.
But
so
you know what?
now my
That's
divorce
the ride or
is not
die.
looking.
But that's the ride or die girl right there. You know.
I
Like,
know, but I'm just saying as far as my prediction now, it looks like shit because she just came to visit.
Hey, this show has a lot of twists and turns, so it happens.
I know.
So, any other predictions?
No.
Really? You're just
What about you?
watching it and seeing how
I'm riding the wave.
riding it. Well, I think that we're obviously closing in more and more on Pablo, and I think that we're going to see Jaime get into some even more questionable situations and maybe even start reverting to a character that's very similar to Khaliel, which I think where he doesn't really play by the rules, and I think that there's going to be a huge fallout with him and the Colombian government and then the U.S. embassy, obviously, because he shouldn't really be working with these people at all. But I think that they're going to start taking out more of Pablo's men. I don't think that Judy has a long life on this show. I think that Pablo still has a few tricks up his sleeve, and so I'm thinking probably one of the next people to get murked on the Colombian Suicide Squad will probably be either Judy or Don Berna. But I think we're going to see some great takedowns of Pablo's crew. And then just as far as like with Steve and Jaime, I think there's probably going to be a little bit more of a rift between the two of them. Either Jaime like tries to bring Steve in and we see them both kind of going down this dark new path together, or there's going to be some division, especially now that Connie's back and Steve kind of feels like he has to take on that role of being the husband again. So yeah, and of course a lot more murder, a lot more violence, all of that great stuff.
A lot more dead bodies,
but
for
great,
sure.
But great scenes, great episodes. We're loving how the show is going so far. At least I am super excited for the rest of the season. And yeah, so Khaliel, where can the people find you if they want to find you on
Twitter and Instagram at Khaliel Abooboo.
All right. And you guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter, Ashley_Chatman. Big shout out to all of the fans who are watching this after show. Thank you guys so much for your comments, for your questions, for your feedback. Please keep them coming and join us here next time. Same time here, Sundays, for episodes 5 and 6. We'll be breaking it down. And we'll see you all next time. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.